What's up, everybody? This is Charles Sanders, Mr. Landlord Status. Just for you guys that are just joining my video, you can go hit the link below or above, wherever I put the link, and go ahead and like or subscribe this video. And this video is going to be about 5 tips on how to avoid getting evicted if you do not have the rent money. That's right. So I used to manage about 200 properties or more, and I dealt with over 400 tenants. I dealt with tenants probably by the thousands over the years, but at one sitting time, about 400 tenants, 200 properties, and hundreds, not hundreds, but dozens of investors in those properties. So I dealt a lot with evictions. And in that process, I learned a lot of things that worked, that got people out of getting evicted, and things that did not work that got people evicted when they did not have rent money. So here are the 5 tips. Are you ready? Okay, so tip number 1. All my tips are probably going to start off with mindset. And as you watch my videos, you'll know there'll be a certain theme here, and the theme will be get your mind right first. So if you don't have money to pay rent, I know it's probably embarrassing and you're ashamed and you're going to be shy, but it's okay. I want you to know, tip number 1 is to have a positive mindset. If you have a positive mindset, then you'll know things will be okay in the long run. I don't want this to stress you out. People have came back from worse. So have a positive mindset. And when you have a positive mindset, that'll change your whole attitude on how to approach not having the rent money and going and telling your landlord or your homeowner or your property manager or maybe even your family member that you do not have rent. So step number 1 is be positive and know that this is only temporary and you're gonna recover from this step. So that's tip number 1. Okay, so tip number 2 would be make sure the rent money is the only thing that's wrong with you being a tenant. And what I mean by that is follow everything else inside the contract that you either signed or verbally agreed to. So if they said no pets, don't have any pets. Have your house clean, take care of the building inside and out. The last thing you want the landlord or owner to do is come there and not only did you not pay rent, but they do an inspection and the home is not clean. So just to give you a quick tip, if you're gonna be short on your rent money or you're not gonna have rent money when it's due, the first thing the landlord's gonna think is, what else is wrong? Oh my God, we're gonna have to get it ready to rent again. Because the reason why most people are renting out their properties is to make profit. So the first thing they want to do is make sure that they're protecting their investment. So you want to ensure them that, listen, I'm a good tenant. I take care of the house. I follow everything in the contract. It's just right now I'm having a hard time. You could have got laid off. You could have been facing a pandemic like this one right now, or it could have been whatever happened, a death in the family, whatever. You got fired, whatever. But just let them know and ensure them, hey, listen, the house is clean. The last thing you want people to do or your landlord to do is say, man, you ain't got my money and the house is dirty. You ain't got my money and you got pets. You ain't got my money and you're working on cars in the front yard and the house looks like a mess and it's a wreck and no. So tip number 2, make sure everything else is good with the contract. So tip number 3, wait until you catch up with all your rent money before you start making service requests. Yes, you don't want to overwhelm your landlord and make them feel like you're just too much. Not only do you not have the rent, but you also want all these things fixed that maybe you, your kids, or one of your guests broke inside the house. Not only do I not have the rent, but 3 of the ceiling fans are broken. Not only do I not have the rent, but the dishwasher doesn't work. Not only do I not have the rent, but the AC unit just broke. Okay? So, I mean, outside the AC unit and essential services like that, that's something that they obviously need to fix right away. But, you know, you don't want them to come in there and see damages, holes in the wall, maybe a lock doesn't work or something like that. You don't want to overwhelm them. Let's get past the rent first and then we'll address service issues. Okay, so that's tip number 3. Make sure you take care of the rent situation and you set up something. So tip number 4 or number 4. So tip number 4, be upfront, be transparent. Let them know ahead of time that you're not going to be able to pay rent at least a week ahead or as soon as possible. Don't let the day come and then your landlord goes looking for you, because uncertainty is not a good thing. I mean, you just want to communicate as much as possible. Let them know up front, hey, this is what's going on. I got laid off. I know you're embarrassed. Trust me. I don't know how your landlord is, if they're nice or if they're mean people, but either way, the best thing you should do is be upfront and say, listen, I'm going to be late. I'm not going to be able to make the payment on time. Be totally transparent. This has worked on me when I was a landlord. When people tell me up front, I will find myself more lenient and see what kind of plans we can work out, instead of me having to look for them and then give them 5-day notices, and et cetera, and then start the due process of getting them evicted. So that's tip number 4. So tip number 5. Tip number 5 in avoiding getting evicted from your landlord is, once you tell them up front and you follow those other tips, make sure you tell them when you're going to be able to come up with the money. The last thing a landlord wants is uncertainty. Yes, you're not going to be able to make it on the 1st, but don't leave it blank. ... No, let them know, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it on the 1st or the 5th or whenever you pay your rent, but I will be able to do this day. I will be able to come forward this day. That lets them know when they're going to be paying the rent, so that way your landlord can make adjustments if he's got to pay mortgage or whatever the case may be. That way he can do what he got to do on his side, he or she has got to do on their side, and prepare, and they will thank you for it. See, that goes all the way back to tip number 1. A lot of people will get down on themselves, they'll get negative, and they'll want to hide because they're embarrassed, and they won't want to come up front and let them know in advance and set up a payment plan and do all these things. All these things are proactive approaches. If you proactively let them know, hey, this is what happened, I guarantee you these tips will help you avoid getting evicted. Now, I got one more bonus tip. Are you ready? When you're ready, let me hear you say you're ready. Okay, you didn't say you're ready. I see you. So, tip number 6, you've probably already heard me say this in the other tips, but I cannot say this enough. Have a good attitude. Have a good attitude. You want to be likable. You want your landlord to like you. So if you go into this thing positive, you go up to this thing up front, they come around, the house is clean, you don't have any service complaints, and you're positive at that, even though you're looking at bad times and unfortunate times. When you have a good attitude, that puts them into a good mood as well, especially when they already know when they're going to expect getting paid from you, and you did all those other tips and you stay positive, you have a good attitude. That makes the landlord like you a little bit more and want to give you a chance. You want them to be like, man, this person is trying. They did everything right. This is what I would expect someone to do in the worst case scenario. You did all these things, and bam, on top of that, you're likable too. Man, look, matter of fact, I'm going to give you another 2 weeks. Matter of fact, I might give you another 30 days or 45 days until you get yourself together. I'll understand. Matter of fact, I'll cover this for you. Who knows? You never know what type of landlord you might get. So try these tips. These tips have worked on me. I've worked with thousands of tenants that weren't even mine. I've helped them through situations like this. These situations I've actually been through myself. So, try them out. If you don't have the money, I guarantee you some of these tips, if not all of these tips, will help you out. So that's it. Charles Sanders, Mr. Landlord Status. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification, so that way you can get more videos just like this.